Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Stephen Haggerty. Today I am joined by Connie Steele, founder of Flywheel Associates. How are you today, Connie?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, a podcast pro like you, I am always slightly nervous when people have my guests on and they're like a pro with podcasting like you. So we'll see how this goes. But first and foremost, just tell me about Flywheel Associates. What is it that you guys do? What problem do you solve?
So, we're a management consultancy that helps companies drive growth by bridging the gap between strategy and execution. So, whether you are developing a long range strategic plan, building a brand, a go to market strategy, it's all about helping you get to the next level. The way we do that, and for us, what's so important is not the what, it's really the how. It's about getting really embedded into your business or one's business, the client's business, so that we can connect the dots, connecting the dots between what the business goals and objectives are, the functions that are involved, and the processes so that we can really facilitate that successful outcome. Because if you can't understand the holistic view of what's going on in that organization, it's going to be hard for you to be that change agent that they want you to be, right? So you could say that there's a technology problem, but the reality is that it's not just a technology problem. There's always more than a technology problem. We also fundamentally believe in an agile way of working, right? Everybody has heard about agile development. People are aware of sort of this perpetual beta. We fully believe in employing that with our clients. So for me, since I focus on the marketing and strategy side, it's employing that agile approach to marketing.
Mm.
Start small, test, learn, and iterate along the way. And you
You
know
make
what?
it sound so simple.
It seems simple, but you know what's great about that is that you really start to bring your clients into the process. They see something tangible. They see something that they can understand what you're doing. It doesn't feel like it's a black box. Nobody
Mm.
wants that. So for us, that's been the way that we work, and that's how we actually form great relationships with people too.
Love it. What an elevator pitch that was as well.
Thank
You
you.
you have practiced that more than once, I'm sure. But Connie, let's go back in time then. How did Flywheel Associates come about? What were you doing? What were you seeing in the marketplace? And I always like to ask this question: what was that thought process going behind when you thought, I'm the person that can solve this problem?
Well, what's interesting behind that, it wasn't necessarily thinking of all that. What it was I had come to a crossroads in the career path that I was on. I was at the head of marketing for this technology company, and it was extremely challenging, extremely stressful, an environment that was toxic. And it wasn't a place where I felt like I could have the impact that I could have. I had two small children. I was working, I don't know, 70, 90 hours a week. I had a 100% virtual team at the time back in 2011, where virtual is
I thought it
obviously
was
the norm
cool.
now. Right. And it got to a point where working in an environment in which it wasn't about extracting the best out of people, rather it was quite the opposite. You know, many may have felt this who've done the pivot from corporate to their own thing, is that you didn't feel like you could accelerate in the way that you wanted to. You weren't fulfilled. You were honestly at a point where, like, is this what I want to continue doing? It's not that you didn't want to do maybe what your skill set was. It was just, is the environment and that current path the right fit? So that's when I chose to make the pivot and realize that I wanted more control. I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to make that impact in a way that I didn't feel like I was able to. So that's when I decided to take the leap and then go into consulting. My husband actually had started the business earlier, and he also went through some of those same realizations. But
Yeah, I think that's a very similar cross path that a lot of people come to.
right, fortunately, having worked in tech for a long time, I worked at AOL way back when, had a lot of friends who had also chosen that path, so it gave me the courage, and
Mm.
that's really how I got started.
Did did seeing your friends go down that path help motivate you to do it, or was it more that environment that was that final push?
It was probably the environment that was the final push, but having friends that have done it successfully or have seen that as an alternative path. I think the
Mm.
key thing is that when you have uh, examples of people who have chosen something that is not the traditional corporate path, and you realize that they can make a go of it and are happy, and you see the other side, that's when you realize, wait, I should give that a try, because there isn't one way of working anymore. I think that was kind of the key realization for me, is that I don't have to then transition out of this job to another job to find a happy home, if there is ever a happy home there. So that to me was very important.
No, I completely agree. I think that education side of things, where you saw it was possible.
Yes.
The moment that thought is triggered, that's where it just creates that domino effect of, oh, if that's possible, what else is possible? How else can I live my life? How else can I be there, for my children, for my husband, all those kind of questions that crop up. In those early days when you first made that crossover, and those early days of being in Flywheel, how was that transition for you from, that corporate environment with that 100% virtual team to this is yours and this is your responsibility to grow?
The feeling was wonderful in that I felt like I had control. I had flexibility. Fortunately, it wasn't a difficult transition, and that because I had started to network, and even that was sort of weird too. People were like, "Oh, networking, right? That's very intimidating for most people." And I didn't even really know what that meant. I think networking itself can be considered a 4-letter word, but it was more about reconnecting with people. I'm like, you know what? What I know I need to do if I'm going to do this is reconnect with people, let them know where I'm at, let them know this is my intent and the reason behind that, but in a way where it's authentic between two people, because I don't want it to be something in which, oh, well, how do you help me? It's not what it's about. It's about reconnecting and saying, well, what value can I add to you as well? And rebuilding that relationship. And so one thing led to another. And then I had consulting opportunities from people that I knew because they had known my work before, which was wonderful. But I think the big lesson for me as I was starting to build this out is that as you share where you are and you're letting people know where you are, those that you might not have been as close to, how they're willing to help you. It's sort of this second degree connection, right? You have a first degree connection, and then they connect you to others, which then these second degree connections, many of them may be in the same boat as you. They're leading you to opportunities as well. And that's not comfortable. So I'll tell for many who are starting off, or even those who are continuing to do it, getting out there, putting yourself out there is not always comfortable, particularly if you're not a person who is about me, take. And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people who are, but if you're a person who is about really giving, the last thing you want to do is sound like, oh, hey, what can you do for me, right?
Or when you know what I hate about networking events? You've triggered something here.
Networking always does. A discussion of networking always triggers something, right?
Always. And it's actually one of the reasons we started our own networking events here in London, because I was so fed up of seeing this, where you go to an event and before sort of they've finished their surname, they've put their business card in your hand, and immediately it removes that. For me, it always removed exactly what you were talking about, that human to human connection, that sort of let's reconnect, let's connect in the first place. Let's not just think, how can I get money out of this person, or how can I get a job or a lead or anything. Let's just figure out what's going on here. Let's find out who each other are. And actually from that standpoint, that's how you open up those second, third degree connections that are actually really more powerful, because they come from that recommendation spot as well, rather than just being pushed towards you sort of thing.
Absolutely. I think, unfortunately, what many people have lost, at least I've felt over the years, is this understanding that it can't be transactional. Even though people intuitively know that new business opportunities are based on relationships because of automation, because of this volume play, that you believe, well, the more people I reach out to, logically, the more conversion I'm going to get. Therefore, the more business I'm going to drive. Well, yeah, if you do it based on pure numbers, but at some point you also want longevity. So you're trying to deliver value. And people sniff it out now too. So any one of you, I'm sure, for your listeners, have gotten tons of LinkedIn requests. You have no idea who they are, or people are selling you things on LinkedIn, and it drives me crazy because you don't know anything about me. You don't know
100%.
what I do, where I could use you. You're just like, hey, let's have a meeting. I sell this.
Here's my Calendly link.
Right. Here,
No.
sign up, call.
No.
For what? That means you've never taken the time to get to know me, care about what I do, what my problems are, my challenges are. First thing in marketing, right? Also in sales, understand the customer's problem or challenges. How do you solve them? Not sell. How do you help solve them without expecting anything in return? And so that to me is just something naturally coming from a marketing and strategy background, that's just what you do. And so how do you parlay that to build your business where it's not about counting points? It's just about how do I help you and how do I stay top of mind so that in the future when you have a need, they will think of you in a very authentic way. And then once you start doing the work, you have a good relationship because you're not going to continue to maintain business if you don't perform. But performing isn't just the deliverable. Performing is your connection with them seeing you as a person, not, oh, you're just doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, it's that removing that transactional thought process. Obviously, the human to human connection, that very tangible feeling of relationships is very important to you and the values in your business. Has it always been that way? Has it always been something you've thought this is what we need within Flywheel? We need to be making sure that we're giving our customers that tangible response, like you said at the start, because that word in its own is really interesting for me, because I feel like so many things on offer now aren't tangible to customers because a lot of people skip that education side of things in terms of actually educating the clients about, hey, these are the results. This is what you're getting. This is how we're doing it. Like that how comes out again, right? So was that very important to you from day one?
Absolutely.
Simple. Great. Done.
I always knew that. I guess it was something in which having worked in marketing research, understanding consumer behavior, understand the reasons behind why people buy, there's always something deeper. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't get to that deeper level with an individual, and having been in corporate and buying from vendors or working with consultants, I knew the reason why I would reach out to them. It was because not just of the work they had done, but it was this relationship that I had, that they could think on a different level, that they knew how to ask me questions. They knew how to anticipate. They were an extension of the company for me. And so, of course, I knew I wanted to be that for them. But you can only be an extension of that company and the people who work in it. The only way you can do that if you build a relationship and know them almost just as well as they know themselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let's talk about how Flywheel has perhaps changed then. What has surprised you the most over the last couple of years or more recent times that has changed within the business, or that you've seen outside the business and you've thought, actually, we need to adopt that. We need to bring this in and either start offering out or bring that into our culture?
I think one of the things that we're starting to shift and see, and this comes out of doing podcasting also. So I'll say, exactly. It's content. But it's about creating compelling content that really tells a story that aligns to the goals and objectives of the company, but in a very authentic way. I mean, there are a lot of different things that are going on, as you know, as a podcaster, but even as a business, as that content is becoming more and more and more critical, right? So also even with the changes in Google where, cookies are not going to be kind of the thing that you can always use, right? So it's a pull strategy. You've been seeing this for a long time. It's definitely a pull strategy to get somebody to think about you. People go to the web first, right? Push doesn't work anymore. Pull. The way you pull people is through compelling content, authentic content. It's not about selling. And the realization for me is that with podcasting, it's such an efficient way to create content in a way where you record once, you syndicate many, and you can have long form. You can have this piece. You could translate that into a blog article. You could translate into a slideshare deck. You could translate that into micro content. But the whole piece is that what you're able to do is tell a story that's consistent, but you've now been able to do it quite efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that is a way to be able to demonstrate the value of what you do, how you do it, why you, in a way that doesn't sound so salesy anymore. And you can then get a better understanding of the company and the people because you have a voice to it versus seeing a banner ad. You've got landing pages, you've got white papers, you have all those typical content pieces, but now there's some understanding of, oh, this is their character. This is the personality they have. There's someone behind the curtain.
Yeah, 100%. I think the content game has been very much publicized, let's put it this way, over the last couple of years. For you, what makes you think this is what is needed right now? Because I feel like every single company out there that is worth their sort of weight in gold is putting out content and creating content, like you said, creating micro content and turning podcasts into blogs or video vlogs like this. But how do you still get seen? How do you still get heard? Because I feel like a lot of people go through, a lot of founders especially, go through a lot of imposter syndrome. And when it comes to content, when actually on podcasts, you are a lot more real. It is a lot more down to earth. It's not scripted. Well, most of them aren't scripted. Let's put it that way. So you remove that safety net as well, don't you? So how did you overcome that? I feel like you probably just did it and it was really easy. But how have you seen, or what are your thoughts on this? Because I think it's a very interesting space at the moment in terms of content, because I would love to see the stats on how many new podcasts are being created sort of every week, and how many new blog posts are being put out there. But it's almost becoming overwhelming.
It is. So I think for context, let's see. I think as of last year, so August of 2019, if I recall correctly, at Podcast Movement, there were, I believe, 700,000 podcasts out there. And then as of January of 2020, there were over 1 million. Wow. I believe. So these are statistics I remember hearing from Libsyn, which is one of the largest podcast hosters. Yeah. So yes, everybody has seen the tremendous growth. I think a lot of people see, okay, it's a tool, which many people, when they think of marketing, oh, here's the cool new tool or channel that I should use, without really understanding strategy. Why are you doing it? What's the value? What does it ladder up into? So to answer your question, how I even got started was a very clear objective, right? It was about, how do I express thought leadership in a way that's authentic? Because for me, it's always about building that relationship with somebody, showing a point of view, not selling. Mm-hmm. And I thought the best way to do it was a podcast. And I also realized the efficiency of it, because I could record it, I could transcribe it, and then I could use the content in different ways. It was scary, believe me. Just, I was so used to interviewing people, but you don't hear yourself because I didn't put it out there. I just tried it. I mapped it out because I'm a planner. And so to minimize the risk, it was mapping out the details on what's the objective, what's the goal, who are the kind of guests, what's the flow, what story do I want to tell? So that helped minimize some of the fear versus just saying, oh, I'm just going to talk to somebody. Yeah. Interviewed a close friend makes it easier, right? So if it's a friend, you don't feel that you would fail as much because...
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Exactly. That helped tremendously. So I started with close friends. You start to hear yourself first. It's terrifying. Like, oh my gosh, I sound like this. I sound horrible. I didn't know I say this many ums or you knows or but you realize, wait, I am learning. I can improve this. The more you do it, the more you improve. You push yourself. It's just like anything though. So you have to be comfortable with change. You have to be comfortable with trying. I think that's what gets most people stuck, is that great idea. let's start. As soon as you start, ooh, it's harder than you thought. Ooh, it's not as perfect as you want it to be. Oh, I don't like it. I'm not going to do it anymore. That's exactly when you have to keep on going. And you say, well, first time, not perfect, not bad. Next time, not perfect, a little better. Next time, ooh, even better. That is the only way you're going to improve. And if you put yourself in a mindset that everything I do is going to be in a perpetual beta, I mean, just like all the apps on your phone, just like any technology product you have, if you get in that mindset, that will help you get to a point where you will be happy with it. It will be so much better than you ever expected. And that's really how it started for me. And then how it leads to, for us as a business, because we've been doing it for so long, we've seen now how it's growing in other areas, how people want to apply it. But because we did it for ourselves, or really, I want to do this for me, I could see how I can apply or really share the learnings that I've gathered myself to businesses. And whenever I talk to friends, potential clients, existing clients, I love sharing it. I love sharing the wisdom and the lessons and insights that I've gained to them, just to share, because they're thinking about it.
Yeah. So
that's how I add value. Is just, hey, you think about podcasting, or you started talking about podcasting, I'm like, here's everything that you need to know. And that's
simple.
It. Simple if you care about fundamentally helping others, delivering value with no expectation of getting anything in return.
Yeah, I think that's the key for so many things in business. It's that don't expect anything in return, and come from that place where you just want to help, you just want to serve, you just want to be able to offer people words of wisdom. That's why I love podcast and the podcasting game, is because it's all free, right? There's so much information out there now, and so many incredible podcasts and so many incredible interviews or solo podcasts, whatever the format is, that there's never been a moment in time where information hasn't been more readily accessible. And it's all comes down to just the reason, exactly what you said. People have gone into the mode of actually saying, you know what, I want to help, I want to serve, I want to share interviews, I want to share stories. And because of that, we are blessed to be in this amazing situation. But if we come back to you and come back to Flywheel, what's next for you guys? Where are you taking the business? Has the business, like we said, 2020 has been a little bit of a crazy year. I don't know if you mentioned that, I don't know if you've realized or if it's affected or anything like that, but some things have happened in 2020, let's put it that way. For you as a business, have you adapted? Have you changed? And moving forward, are you going to do anything differently, or what's the plan?
I think every business has had to adapt and change.
I would hope so.
In light of COVID. Certainly when it all happened, that did impact us. And I think for us, a lot of it was just thinking about, well, again, how do we add value? Mm-hmm. How do we continue to network, to build relationships in such a way that will eventually turn into new opportunities? And it wasn't, of course, everybody probably goes into a panic, but it wasn't about, oh no, what am I going to do? And how do I drum more business? It was, here's a reality. If we take a step back logically, in general, how do you build more business? Well, if you were to, with most people, everybody's thinking about a funnel. How do you put more, prospects and leads into the funnel? Well, for us, it was, the way you do this, and we've been so pleasantly surprised in doing this for years, but how do you expand your network, your village, in a different way, or in a way where you're meeting new people and you don't realize that each new connection could be a node to a new opportunity or a new connection that could lead to something. So focused a lot of our time is just meeting new people and helping people with, I think that long-term goal is like, well, we know that will lead to other things when people have the opportunity to open up their purse strings and so forth, but that they'll think of us. And so that has led to new opportunities, and also this realization that, wait, we could take this new skill and apply it and help others where we know there is that need. So it's building that foundation to do so. So it's making a pivot where we had other services, which we still want to do, but there's also a passion around creating content in an authentic way, which is a need and a challenge at the same time, how can we share our perspective and point of view for others, and then subsequently drive new opportunities as a result? But it wasn't the lead of, I need new opportunities, I need it now, so I'm going to blast everybody. It is, we love this space, we want to share, how can we draw people in? And the funny thing too, through all this, in doing the podcasting, the other piece I've become incredibly passionate about over the past years is helping others understand how to realize their growth potential as a person and career-wise. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I started.
Who does?
Who does? But I've seen such a gap with up-and-coming leaders, even those who are even moving into leadership positions, where they don't have the support, mentorship, network.
Yeah.
How can you provide that content in a way that they can now manage these crazy times and handle a pivot? So that's led to other things that we are looking to do outside of Flywheel, but for me personally, because I believe that it's about helping others.
Yeah, 100%. And on that topic then, talk to me about your own support network. Who do you have that helps you? Who do you have that sort of soundboards off your ideas? Because it's so important. It comes up a lot on my podcast where we talk about environment, we talk about support, and every founder I've spoken to has an amazing support team. So what's yours?
First, it's my husband. I'm very lucky. Just like how RBG, if that was what Ruth Benedict, she had her husband who was just such a rock and really understood her and supported her. I have a wonderful partner there, but I actually have a wonderful team too that gives me a different perspective on things. But it's honestly the friends that I've built in my professional career along the way, and I continue to extend along the way, where it's almost this Rolodex I have in my head of those who have valuable perspectives on dealing with maybe the human side of work, others who have a skill and a certain expertise that you want to tap into, others who may have a skill in understanding maybe just sort of the different dynamics of things, or really the business building side of things, like sales or just the infrastructure. So they're somewhat bucketed where I know if I have a challenge in any one particular area, I have a person that I could talk to give me perspective. And I think that's what every entrepreneur needs, is somebody that they could talk to so that you don't feel stuck. Because honestly, at some point, yes, you have YouTube videos. Yes, you can go to Google. Yes, you can go to these blogs. Yes, you can go to communities, but it still doesn't beat having a conversation with somebody
100%.
that knows you really well. And that may be able to help you solve a problem faster or help you see a perspective faster.
It also brings in an incredible amount of accountability, doesn't it? Watching a YouTube video or reading something, that's just you at your desk staring at your screen at the end of the day. But when you, like you said, when you speak to someone, first and foremost, the problem is never normally the actual problem.
Correct.
So when you speak to someone, the real problem usually arises, and then, it's a useful bit of your time. Whereas when you go down sort of a YouTube hole or research fact-finding mission, you can often just end up in the wrong place anyway. So I completely agree.
What I believe has been just happening on a macro level is just the true two-way conversation and interaction that we used to have in an office environment, but even in general, pre-COVID, and even I'd say it's been happening when there wasn't COVID and there's all this crazy stuff. It's been going away. You need it. You need somebody to be your partner to help you think, because they're going to challenge you. You don't get that in a one way where, yes, it's about acquisition of information, but I think everybody's become hoarders of information, thinking I'm going to get all this information, I'm going to read it, and it's going to give me the answer. It doesn't.
Never.
You need to problem solve with two people. You need at least two people to really problem solve, and help you understand how to deal with these challenges that are a lot more complicated than you probably have thought them to be.
Always. And that is why environment, that is why support always comes up on this podcast. And I think
yes,
every single person, what I love about the question, find out more about people's support network, is that they always have sort of the same objective, but often different ways to do it. So whether they're, one-on-one mentoring, coaching, whether in networks, support networks, you always have to find what works for you, because what works for me or what works for Connie is something that is probably very different than what works with you. And test everything. That's why I always say, go to networking events, join masterminds, work with coaches, and figure out what is going to work best for you.
And I would add to that, so for many people where networking is so uncomfortable, you realize it could be a way to build your village academically. Going to different events when things open up and you can't go to an event is extremely uncomfortable. Start to understand one-on-one. If you don't like putting yourself out there, and while I'm extroverted, I don't always like going to network events either because it feels very transactional. But if you can start reconnecting with people that you haven't talked to in a long time, that maybe you don't know if maybe they could be a pertinent connection for your business, but the whole point is it's about reconnecting and getting to know people again. Start there.
Mm-hmm.
See what's going on with them, just like you're reconnecting with an old friend.
Blow the cobwebs off. Get those conversations started.
That may be the most comfortable place for you to start if this is incredibly intimidating. But just get to know them. Reach out. I haven't talked to you in a long time. And right now is a great time, right? COVID. What? Hey, just been thinking about all these people that I haven't chatted with in a long time. Been thinking about them. Would love to see how you're doing. No rush to get back. But I think many people will feel actually thankful and happy. Like, wow, that's really nice. There was nothing behind it except to see how I'm doing and make it a conversation about how they're doing. Not about you, about them. They will naturally ask you how you are doing. Let them pull you in. But don't be like, hey, so I just started a business and I'm going to be doing this and do you know of anybody?
Yeah.
It's going to kill it. You're never going to have that person as a connection again. But if you do that, let them talk, ask them questions, they're naturally going to want to ask about you.
Yeah, always. Connie, listen, you have been a fantastic guest. Words of wisdom and so many bits of great advice. My final question is how can people connect with you then? How can people find out more about you, Flywheel? What's the best way for them to do that?
So you can go to flywheelassociates.com if you want to learn more about the company. You can follow me on LinkedIn or send me a message on LinkedIn. Let me know, how you learned about me, hopefully through this podcast, but how we can even build a relationship too and get to know each other and how we can help one another. And if you're interested in other resources too, you can check out my podcast called Strategic Momentum, and it's available across all podcasts or wherever really you find your podcast, all directories, wherever you want to go.
I find my podcast in places I didn't even know existed sometimes. I'm like, how the hell did it get there? The power of an RSS feed. Eh?
Exactly.
Connie, listen, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I really value your conversation and your time. So thank you so much.
It was a really fun conversation too. And you're quite a great podcast host. So thank you.
Too kind, too kind. Thank you so much, Connie. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. This has been Founders 360.